Okay, so let's continue with our coding exercise series. So open the leetcode.com, go to the problems tab, and if you scroll down, there is search questions bar. So search question number 73, hit enter. The question is set matrix zeros. It's come under the medium category, so click on it. So let's read the question. So given an m cosine integer matrix. So m cosine means the row could be different and columns could be different. So that is fine. So some integer matrix is given. So that matrix, so we have some rows, we have some columns, some integers are given in that matrix. So if an element is zero, so if there are so many integers, it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, any number of integers. So they said if an element is zero, set its entire row and entire column to zero. Correct. So that's why like the problem statement is called set the matrix zeros. And you must do it in place. So just ignore for the time being. So what's the question is? So if an element is zero, we need to set its entire row and entire column as zero. So as an example, so this is the matrix 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1. So here is the zero. So zero is in which row? Second row. And zero is in which column? Second column. If we take start from the first one index, or if you start from the zeroth index, then you can say like the first row and the first column, like zero row, zero, zero row, first row, second row, zero column, first column, second column, right? It's okay, it's fine. So now here it's zero. So this is the row. This is the row. So we have to set this row as zero, and this is the column. So we have to set this as a column as zero. All right. So let's take the second example. So here we have again some matrices given and some integers are given. So here zero is given. So if zero is given here, we need to set its entire column and entire row zero. So this zero, this will become zero, and zero is here. So we have to set the entire row or entire column as zero. So this zero and this zero. So output will be this. All right. So along with that, you have to do it in place. In place means you don't need to return anything. So the output will be the same matrix only. So if you see the function definition in on the right hand side here, so the output is none because you don't need to return anything. You have to just basically update this matrix. So update this matrix means how to update any element in the matrix. So matrix of ij is equal to some element. So in this case, some element is will be zero, but where we need to put the zero, that is the main question. All right. So basically what we have to do, we have to do in place. So in place means and we have to place some zeros at somewhere. So how to place? So matrix of I and matrix of j equal to zero. So if we do this in place, so then we will get the output matrix. Right. So this is the in place. And what value we need to put? We need to put zero. Okay. So how to do that? So first we need to find, okay, let's go to the whiteboard first. So this is the example. We have taken both the examples. So we will go, before writing the code, we will go through both the examples. So this is the first example and this is the second example. Okay. So here is the zero. So how to scan all elements in the matrix. So by running two for loops, first for the row and first for the column, as an example. So this is the matrix. This is the matrix, right? So how to scan? If you scan the outer list, consider it as a list. Consider like this. So matrix one, matrix two, or you can say row one, row two, row three. So this is the row one, 111. This is the row two, 101. This is the row three, 111. So how to scan any list? Just for loop like for I in range of, and this is let's suppose matrix. All right. So range of length of matrix. All right. But if we scan like this, we will get the whole row. We will get the whole row. So I will give us the whole row. Right. So I will give us the whole row. Now we need to scan all the elements of this. So that's why like the two rows. So why would to scan all the elements in the matrix? We need to run the two for loops. Okay, fine. Now what you have to do is first we need to find where is the zero, because until unless we don't know where is the zero, how we are going to know which row and which column we need to fill the zeros. So where is the zero? We need to find in which row and which column that zero exists. So what we will do, we will start from the starting. So we will start from the starting. So we will scan this element, is the zero? No. We will scan this element, is the zero? No. We will scan this element, is the zero? No. Now the first row is completed. Second row, we will scan this element, is the zero? No. Now we will scan this element, is the zero? Yes, it is zero. Then it is in which row? It is in, like, if you start from zero, so if it is zero row, and this is the first row, and this is the second row, so it's in the row one. And which column? So in the zeroth column, and this is the first column, and this is the second column. So it's in the second column. Oh, sorry, column number one and row number one. So now we know we have the, but there could be one and any more zeros as well. Alright, so like in this case, there could be more zeros as well. So first, because we are scanning, uh, we because if you see, we come here, and we know we can't go back like from this, because we already scanned the first row. Now we are scanning the second row, but we need to put zero here as well. We need to put zero as here as well. So that would be the different logic. So this question will be split into two categories. First category is just to find in which row and in which column zero exists. In which row and which column zero exists. So what we will do, we will create a row set, or you can say a row list, and the column list or column set, to find in which column and which row, the zero exists. Okay, so let's try that. So now what we have to do, so first we find the number of rows. So how many number of rows? So that is the length of the matrix. So length of the matrix. And how many number of columns? Length of matrix of zero. So matrix of zero means this element, and whatever the length of this element, that will be the number of columns. Now we need to find in which row and which columns the zero exists. So zero rows, so we will take a set, and zero columns, we will take a set. Okay, so now let's find for I in range of, or you can say for I in range of rows, for j in range of columns, because we need to run two local. Now we check if matrix of I and j equal to zero. So we will start scanning. We will start scanning. Okay, but whether this is zero or no, this is zero, no, this is zero, no, this is zero, this is now this is zero. So now we find. So we find this I and this j is zero. So we know. So I is the row. So it means we found the row as well, and j is the column as well. So let's add into our zero row set. So zero rows dot add I, zero rows dot add zero columns, sorry, zero columns. So now, by this logic, determine which row and which column has zero. All right. So now we, so this loop is complete, but we only have just find that. Right. So once we find that, now our work is like 70% completed, because so earlier what we are doing. So earlier what we are doing is to scan all the elements, to check to check where the zero exists. What we are doing is we are scanning all the rows, right? And we are scanning all the columns. We are scanning all the columns, right? Right. Now we know zero is in this row, zero in this row, right? And we know, like, if zero is in this row, then we need to make this entire row zero. And we know zero is in this column, and we need to make this entire column a zero. So do I need to scan? So to fill all the elements, let me tell you. So let's suppose, so we found zero in this row. So what we have to do? We have to fill zero here, and we have to fill zero here. Now to fill the zero here, Just consider for the rows, forget about the columns. So to fill the zero here, we need to scan all the all the elements, right? We need to scan all the elements. But should we scan first row as well, right? Because we already know zero in this row. So why should I scan the first row? All right. So what we have to do, because we know zeros in which rows, because earlier we are scanning all the rows. We are scanning all the rows. Now we know zeros in which that row. So we will scan only that rows. So set entire row to zero. So for I in zero rows. So for I in zero rows. So zero rows will be something like this. Zero rows will be something like this. So in our case, in our first example, it will be one. It will be one. Okay. So what we have to do for I in, let's say set. So for I in zero of rows, and we know how to set any element uh, zero. So we need both I and both j, because I told you to set any elements, we have to set like this: matrix of I and matrix of j is equal to zero. So from I we get from here, but what about the j? So it could be all columns. It could be all columns. This column as well, this column as well, this column as well, right? So we have to scan all the columns. For j in range of columns, that is the same logic. Here in this case we are scanning all rows and all columns, but now if we have to set entire row to zero, we already know which row zero exists. So we will scan only those rows but all columns, right? So now matrix of I and j equal to zero. That's it. Now same thing we have to do: set entire columns to zero. So now we know, let's suppose, let me rub this. Let me rub this. So now we know zero in this column, zero in this column, zero in this column. Second. Yeah. So we know zero in this column, zero in this column, right? So to to s- we need to make this zero as well, and we need to make this zero as well. So it means we have to scan all the rows. We have to scan all the rows, but we will scan only this column. But we will scan only this column. So the same thing we will do. Now we need to scan all rows. We need to scan all rows, because we need to scan. We need to put zero here as well. We need to put zero here as well. We need to put zero as well. So we need to scan all rows, but we will scan only zero columns. We are not going to scan all the columns. All right. And now matrix of I and j equal to 0. That's it. So now first we determine in which row and which column 0 exists. So now we know the row and now we know the columns. So we are setting the entire row 0 and the entire column 0. So let's try to run it. And there is no need to return anything. All right. So some matrix. So spelling is wrong. Matrix. Oh, let's try to rerun it. So something is wrong. So let's me figure it out. What is wrong? So for I in range of rows, for I in range of columns. So we are taking, oh, I unnecessary overwrite here. Yeah, so our sample case has been accepted. So let's try to submit to test all the scenarios. So now you could see all the scenario has been accepted and our solution has been accepted. So this is the simple way like which I found, and the straightforward way. Just find in which row which column is zero, and we know to find is a very simple way. You have to scan each and every element in a matrix, and to scan each and every element in the matrix you need to run two for loops, and just that one condition. If it is zero, okay, now we know the row, we know the column. Store the rows in the zero rows, store the columns in the zero column. Now this part is complete. Now we know zeros in which column and zeros in which rows. So if we know zeros in which row or zeros in which row, so we know zeros in this row, zero in this row. So just scan this row. So just scan this row. So that's why we are scanning this row. Just we are scanning that particular rows, but all the columns. Now we know zeros in this column. So just scan that column. Just scan that column, but all the rows. That's it. So that's the end of the video. Thank you. You can also try this question. Thank you.